Hey, what's up, Mental Health Nation? How's everybody doing today? I'm super excited about today's show. I'm going to have a huge announcement coming up. But first, let's get into it. As you guys know, Weeds Across America Radio now replays my podcast on Fridays at 8 p.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m. Um, and super easy to find. You just download your favorite app, whether it's the iHeartRadio app, the Odyssey app, or the TuneIn app, and you just search Reads for Reads Across America Radio, and you click follow, and you can pick up all their great programming. And they have a lot of really good programming out there. If you've been following my mental health minutes this week, I hope you guys have really enjoyed those. Every week I kind of have a theme, and this week it has been just kind of letting things go, and so I hope you've taken to heart to some of that because I just got a feeling that out there for a lot of you guys, you just had that one thing that just kept weighing on you and you just couldn't let it go. For all you who saw my post about the podcast today, said I was going to have a big, huge announcement. And I'm super excited about that. But before then, you see that QR code up there on your screen right there for Reads Across America Radio for Reads Across America. You just scan your phone over that, you click that link, and you can donate Reese for Reese Across America, so that way at the holidays, we can ensure that the soldiers who gave all can have a wreath on their tombstone during the holidays. It's a very important program, and truly honored to be part of them and for what they do. Um, you know, to ensure that, and it's pretty amazing. Like I said before, if you donate five or more, if you let me know, I'll give you a shout out on the podcast. I want to thank to all of those who have donated. I don't know who you are, but I know you have been donating because they haven't canceled my show off Reach Cross America Radio. No, I'm just joking. But thank you for that. It's very important. I think sometimes we forget that the Rees are not, very expensive. So they're super, to use, and it's tax deductible also. So with that, I wish I had a drum in here. I do drum roll, drum roll, and my producer's gonna pop it up on the screen right now. And this is the super excited about this. So if you guys haven't heard, and I know you haven't, my book's coming out, The Mental Health Warrior. This has been a 2-year project. Super excited about it, and I'm going to talk about the book some today during the podcast. Is going to be the topic. But it talks about my experiences on 9/11, and it goes in more detail than that, and I'll go through that a little bit later. But something real quick. One, you see the QR code there. You scan your phone over that. It takes you to Amplify, who published the book. I did do a hybrid publisher for the book. Super excited about that. They did a really great job with it. Huge shout out to them. Huge shout out to Sean Hubbard, who he took the photo that's on the cover. He's a great, amazing photographer, and really happy and humbled by all that. But anyway, so you scan that code. Please note that if you want to pre-order the book, you can pre-order it. It comes out officially September 12th. But if you order through Amplify, they say that they will get the books out sooner. And then July 12th. So wait, don't order the book yet. As much as I want you to, don't order it yet. Use the keyword warrior, and you'll save 20% on your book. And that's going to be available until the 12th of September. So super excited about that. So click on that link, go out there and read about it. Go ahead and wait till July 12th to put your order in to save 20%. I said, come on, Amplify. I got the best listeners in the world out here, and they need to know, they need to deserve a little, something, something, right? So let's give everybody a little something, something nowadays. And they said, okay, well, we'll give them a 20% discount for 2 months. And so I was super excited, and I want to thank them for that. It was truly something they didn't have to do, but I thought it was important to do. I'm excited about that. It was a book that I didn't write myself. I wrote it with a good friend of mine, Dr. Bill Kremner. You see there, we actually worked together at DAIG, Department of Army Inspecting General. We were on the Systemic Inspection Division. We actually went out at 2 different times, but one time with him looked at the suicide prevention program across DOD, and that's how I met him. He's a truly amazing individual, and was really thankful for our friendship and the research that he did behind the book, not only as for myself and my stories, and how he put the book together, but also, when he went out and researched other things to talk about the book. And so Pretty impressive. I think it's a good read. You guys will learn more about me because you're like, listen to your podcast. I mean, you talk about your suicide attempt. You talk about this. You talk about that. What else could I learn about Cliff Bauman in this book? I'm going to tell you right now. There's a whole bunch of stuff in this book you don't know about me that's been put in there, and so it's kind of nerve wracking when you put your heart and soul in something. You don't know how people are going to take it when they read the book. But I think you guys are truly enjoy the book. It's an easy read, but it's an important read, and I think it's a story that I think a lot of times isn't really told, right? You see a lot of books written about the World Trade Center and all that, but you really don't hear too much about the Pentagon. And so it details what I went through, a little bit more detail than what I've talked about on the podcast. When I was at the Pentagon 9/11, and then subsequently days afterwards. But also it talks about the people that I was with, and then some other people who I wasn't with, but also were impacted by 9/11. So their stories in the book also. And then it goes into stories, a little bit more detail about my life and other things that went on. So super excited about that. I'm gonna hang on a second. So we're having a little bit of audio trouble, so I'm gonna wait here for a second. As soon as Chris tells me that we're good to go, and I'll get back to yakking. Okay, so we're having thunderstorms out here in Virginia right now, and so his power went flickered out at his house. So he says we're good to go now. So he says we're back to good to go. So in the comment section, I'm going to text Warrior. That's your promo code to save 20% on the book. There we go. So that's great. So super excited about that. Um, so what I want to do is let's talk about this book for a second. So I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from the book. So when you first open up the book on the cover, this is pretty moving, and it's kind of hard for me to read, but it's very true, not only for myself, but for a lot of first responders, for a lot of veterans out there um, who put their life at risk to save other people for no apparent reason, or and you know who I'm talking about. The people who in a moment of an emergency or something going on, they don't think about themselves, they just rush forward, and they continue to do that. So on the first page of the book right here, I'm gonna read this right here so you can see. And so what it says is, some people put their lives and health at risk to save others. It is in their blood. This book commemorates them. This is the personal story of Cliff Bauman, i.e. me. Journey as a 9/11 volunteer, first responder, and his experience with trauma and survivor's guilt. The story told here explores how he overcame his difficulties and saved many lives, from putting himself at risk, rescuing sailors, speaking to large groups about the importance of seeking help and becoming a mental health warrior. My path to become a mental health warrior has not been forged by myself. It's been forged by relationships. It's been forged by therapy. It's been forged by doing speaking events. It's been forged by writing this book. It's been forged over the years of realizing and always retooling myself to make myself better. And that's not always easy to do. You guys heard me talk about the boat rescue. That's in the book here. And I talk about, Norfolk Marine when they fixed my boat for free. And I was very thankful of that. And I get choked up every time I think about that, because that was something they didn't have to do. So sometimes, your act of kindness isn't sometimes rewarded, even when you don't think it's going to be. Well, we never expect it to be. But that's not why we do what we do. But I hope you guys, take the chance. I hope you get the book pre-ordered. Amplify will ship them out prior to September 12th if you order through their website. She did let me know that today, so thank you, Lauren, for that. I think my readers would be super excited over it. I'm super excited about it. It's like I said, it's been a 2-year project. It's kind of hard for me to talk about because I'm not used to of talking about selling stuff. I talk about the t-shirts, the mental health warrior t-shirts and other things like that. But this is something a little bit different because it's really personally. When somebody writes a book or when somebody does something that's really personal to themselves, I think it's a hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to put yourself out there. But I think it's an important story to tell. I think it's important for people to know that I say it all the time, it's okay not to be okay. It's okay to go through issues and problems. And one of the things I've talked about this week in my mental health warrior minutes is, letting go of things, right? And so if you had that one little thing in your mind that's always been holding you back. You just can never seem to let it go, right? And that's easy for people to say. It's a hard thing to do, right? I'm extremely stubborn. I'm as stubborn as a mule sometimes. Um, and sometimes it's hard for me to let stuff to go away, but it's something that you have to practice every day. And one thing I said in my mental health minute this week is we just 4th of July, right? Everybody went out and celebrated their independence and their freedom, and I hope everybody appreciates the fact that we live in this great country. But there's always some fireworks left over, right? You don't quite always shoot them off. Maybe it rained, or maybe you got too drunk if you're a big girl, or maybe something happened, you just didn't get to shoot them all off. So my mental health minute was the day after 4th of July was take that one firework, take it outside, think about that one thing that's been bothering you, that's keeping you from being the best self that you can be, and light that firework. And as that firework, and then it takes off with all the smoke, and then whatever it was doing, whatever type of firework it was, when it explodes or lets off those lights. But when it's done, just let that go. Let that thought, that fear, that anxiety of that one thing go that's been holding you back. Whether it was some trauma in your life, whether it was something bad that happened, whether it's something that you've been happening good in your life, and I've talked about this. Sometimes good things in your life makes you more nervous about stuff, right? Because you're waiting for something bad to happen. Let all that go, right? With the fireworks, let it go, right? Okay. That's what I talked about yesterday. Then today on my podcast or my mental health minute, I said, did that thought come back? Did you let it go, but then it came back? And so what do you do then if it comes back? And just know that that's okay. But at least you started the process in letting it go. And so you may not have any more fireworks, but let that thought go again. And what you'll find out is over time, it's easier and easier to let go of those thoughts like that. And so, that's very important. So, just keep focused on that, and, it will, over time, and you can, if you're in therapy or seeing a therapist, you can always ask them, for tips on letting those thoughts just keep coming back into your head. I talk about the Ear Kick mental health app. I use it every day. They have a great videos on there and stuff for anxiety, and it really helps with dealing with things and problems and issues that come up. And so that's good. And so that's kind of what I was feeling, because I had a couple of things that I just seemed like I just couldn't let go. It just kept, nagging me and carrying on. And, that's one thing that I actually did practice and I actually did do. We shot fireworks. We had some we shut off last night, and I did that. But today, when I was in yoga, and it wasn't restorative yoga, it was Vinyasa yoga, whatever. I don't remember the names. I just go to yoga. I couldn't even tell you mostly what, and I've been doing it a year, but I don't pay attention to the classes. I just go because I enjoy it. Um, you know, I really try to let my mind be free of thoughts when I'm in yoga. And that's the hardest thing that I've had to do, is just kind of just let it go. When you have PTSD or other issues, um, it's a tough thing to do, and it's something that you have to learn to do on a daily basis. I talk about that, having tools in your toolbox to try to understand, on a daily basis, if something happens that pops up, what tool do I need to fix this issue or problem I'm having now? Because it always seems to pop in when you're having issues and problems. That's just a thing. When you have post traumatic stress syndrome or you're dealing with mental health issues, that it just happens, right? And so you have to learn how to deal with it. It's and for a lot of veterans, 4th of July, it bothers them, the sound of the fireworks and things like that. And we talk about that and finding the best technique. One thing when I went to the hearing doctors and I was having issues with, getting my hearing aids, is they actually have some special earplugs and other stuff they can design and put in. So the sound of the fireworks aren't so loud. And I thought that was pretty amazing to have, for somebody, that has those issues, that they can go out and still enjoy being around family and friends and don't have to worry about it. And so, that's just something that you need to learn and work through. Fireworks never really bothered me, and still doesn't, I think. Now I will tell you that a couple of weeks ago, I don't know if you guys remember that unfortunately that plane that crashed in West Virginia that had that family on board, that they lost oxygen, and the jets were scrambled out of Langley and they flew over and the sonic boom come out. Now that triggered me. I came running out of my house. My neighbor, who's a veteran, we both come running out of the house. Luckily, I wasn't in my underwear, and we're like, "Hey, what the hell was that?" Because I'd never heard a sonic boom before that close. I've heard him, off in the distance, but that was like right over my house. And so that was a little bit crazy. So yeah, so that triggered me for a couple of seconds. And then me and my neighbor talked about it, and then we kind of laughed about it. Once we kind of figured out, what it was and why that occurred. But if you're not expecting that, and of course I've never had that, at my house, the sonic boom, it does take you by surprise when you do get that. And so if that happens to you, right, your anxiety goes through the roof, boof, your heart rate's going up, you're maybe sweating some, you're going out. But how do you feel after you figure out that it is what it is? Like, okay, so I went out and I figured out, okay, that was a sonic boom, and then my stress level comes back down. How fast does it come back down? Mine came down pretty quick because it came. But if you heard another loud noise after that, would that trigger you again? Would you go back to the way you were feeling? Or would you think of that differently than what you'd had before had you not known that? And so that becomes very important, because you have to realize that certain things trigger you differently, and you have to learn to deal with those differently, right? And so for me, triggers for me is, and I'm going on a tangent here, but that's okay, is noises, sometimes noises, but mostly it's smells that bother me the most. And if I'm, by the water, in the water because of the boat rescue and stuff, sometimes that'll bother me some, but not really. But it's the smell of the fuel, right? Because when the boat got hit by the barge, obviously there was fuel and stuff in the water. So if I'm getting gas, in the boat when I had my boat, um, that smell would bring me back, and that would, to what went on that day. And that got better over time. But, that always, I always tell people all the time that, when you have PTSD or other issues, when you are confronted by that, it's like, psh, bam, the most, vivid dream you ever had, and it comes flooding right back into you. And then you have to learn how to, uh, process what just happened, right? And then the second that it happened, and B, know that that's okay that you felt that way. I think for a lot of veterans and for a lot of people out there, I think they feel guilty or upset that they um they felt that way, right? Because I know for me it did. It bothered me for a while, that I felt that way. Hey Susan, thanks for listening. Appreciate you. But it's that's a tough thing to get over with, right? Because when you are not Right, right. When you're having issues, PTSD, mental health issues, and whatever, over time, you start thinking of yourself as less than, and over then that can be very debilitating. I know it was for me. So when I was in 9/11, I talk about it in the book, what I did in 9/11 and afterwards. Um, I don't know why I keep showing that since it's on the screen, but I guess out of habit. But when I couldn't process why I was feeling the way I was feeling, and I couldn't articulate that, right? And so if you've been through some type of trauma and you don't fully understand that trauma or how to deal with that trauma, then you have a hard time articulating how that trauma is affecting you. And I couldn't even articulate it to my therapist. Well, because back then I was more focused on lying to the therapist to get out of therapy so I could get that stamp that I was fit for duty and go back on active duty, which was the wrong thing to do. And I talk about that. But when you're feeling like that and it makes you feeling less than, right? Then you start questioning life in general, right? And I talk about that led up to my suicide attempt. And I think for me and doing my podcast and all the things that I'm doing here is trying to really convey to people that are listening, whether you're a veteran, whether you're not a veteran, because it affects everybody, is that's what you don't wanna feel. It doesn't make you less of a person. It doesn't make me less of a man, doesn't make me less of a father, um, just because I'm feeling that way, and that's kinda hard, because then you think there's something wrong with you or something going on with you, and it's not you personally, it's the trauma or what you went through. It's not you, it's your situation that you went through. And so that's a hard thing to do to get over feeling less than. And I think if you could stop yourself from thinking that, right? And I'm only talking from my personal experience when I was going through what I went through, and there's been times in my life where I've had other issues and problems. Um, it's the less than that bothered me probably the most because then I was like, well, there's something wrong with me. People aren't going to like me. I don't want to be around anybody because they'll be able to see that there's something wrong with me, or they'll know that I'm not equal to them, or I'm less than them. It just goes on, and then it's a slippery slope once you start going down that road. And I think not going down that road is very important. And I talk about that is in my last couple podcasts, and especially on the mental health minutes. We know what that road looks like, right? I talk about that. If I'm always going this way and I go that way all the time because it's comfortable, because it's what I'm used to, but I always have the same problems that way. Why is it's so hard for me to go that way or that way? But yet I still go this way. Is it fear? Is it too much anxiety? When you're going through therapy and when you get to that point that you're going to talk about why you're in therapy, and anybody who's ever been in therapy knows what I'm getting ready to say. That is so hard to do. My brothers and sisters, when you start reliving that trauma that puts you in front of that worker, that healthcare worker, that psychologist, psychiatrist, licensed clinical social worker, life coach, whatever, when you reopen that door that you shut, but that shut door is what's been holding you back. That's been keeping your fear or making you do things you normally wouldn't to do. That's hard. But once you tell that story in a safe environment and you let it go, you start feeling better a little bit, because I know I did. When I finally opened up about why I was feeling the way I was feeling, because I could never have that conversation with my family. I never could have it with my friends. It took me up until after my suicide attempt to have that conversation with my therapist. Thank God I survived. Um, but once you can do that, at that moment, at that second of that time of that day is the moment that you start healing. It's that moment that you are no longer going to go down that one road you've always been down. You just veer to the left or right. That moment is when you start your recovery. And I think for a lot of people who are recovering addicts or who are recovering from trauma, whatever you did self medication wise, whatever that is, I think at that moment, you feel a weight being lifted off your chest, right? Because I know I did. And, I may be completely wrong. I'm only talking about my experiences, but I think at that moment, and then what you have to do is don't go back to the familiar. I did that. I did that several times. I went back to the familiar because that's comfortable, right? We don't want to be uncomfortable. We want to be comfortable. But sometimes comfortable isn't the best thing to do if you're trying to recover from something. It's being uncomfortable. I talk about the fact that I really I don't drink that much anymore just because I don't know. I just don't. And it all started when I went to a doctor and said it, he was saying, "Oh, quit drinking. Yeah, quit drinking. It's bad for you, blah, 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 blah." He just said, have one less drink. Drink one less beer. If you're having 12, what does it matter if you just drink 11? Okay, well, okay, doc, if I can do that, I'll do that for you. I'll drink one less drink. What he was doing was he was putting me on a different road in a different path, and I didn't know it. And that path was I no longer thought I had to sit at a house at night because I never drank when my kids were up, when the kids were in bed asleep, and I sat down and had that scotch or, that good 10th Mountain bourbon, which I still drink every now and then. Don't get me wrong. I still like my good bourbon, 10th Mountain every now and then. Got to have it. And that's okay. But if you're drinking not to forget something, but drinking because you want to enjoy it, if you have family, friends over or whatever, and you're having a drink, I have no issues with that at all because I still do the same thing. It's when you're drinking to forget something, or you're drinking to keep yourself from thinking about something. Those are completely two different things, and that's what I'm talking about. That's the drinking the doctor was getting me to stop doing by telling me to drink one drink less. It wasn't just social drinking out with friends or whatever. That's totally different. And I just want to make sure you guys understood that I was talking about completely two different things, and I just want to clarify that. So, what I realize is I had Nick's family was here at the house, and we all would sit around the evening and have a drink and had laughs and carry on, had fun. There's nothing wrong with that. It's when you're alone in your room by yourself, having not good thoughts is when you need to change direction. And I say this all the time, get up, leave the room, turn the light on. For me, it's watch Rick and Morty, Family Guy. The new Futurama's coming out the end of July. Gonna be watching that. I love me some cartoons. Watch anime. But anyway, sorry, I went on a tangent. Do something different, right? Get off that familiar path because that's what you've been going on. And I don't care how long you've been on that road. Take a small step to the left. Take a small step to the left. Right. I don't know whichever way hell you want to go. Just get off that road. And that's what that doctor was doing. And he was sneaky about it. And what was amazing is a year later, I went back for my physical. He asked me because he looked at his notes. Oh, so did you drink one less drink? Well, yes, doc, I did. I'm kind of proud of myself. I did that. And then it was like, well, how about have two less drinks? And it's like, well, I handled the one less drink. Okay, I can do two less drinks. And then what I realized over time is I didn't feel the need to have that drink every night. And so I didn't have it. And so I had to break myself of the habit. And that's another thing that's hard to do is even if you're not, and I'm just saying drinking because that's what I did. It can be whatever. It can be eating, junk food at night or whatever it is. Um, it's what it was just a small change that I needed to do, and I just lost my direct train of thought. And it'll come back to me in a second. That's the TBI poking in on my head. It happens every now and then. My brain just goes, glitch. Okay, we have a glitch, and then we'll get back into it. But you know, it's changing the habit, and the habit's the hard thing to change, right? So if you are constantly doing something at a habit, that's hard to break. And mine was at a habit, right? The kids go to bed. I sit downstairs. I'd have a drink, maybe 2 drinks. And then what would happen after you have a couple of drinks? Well, then I'm going to have a snack. Well, the next thing you know, I gained 30 pounds. Well, why did I gain 30 pounds? Well, it wasn't because I was working out, not working out because I was working out. It was because I was having snacks at night while I was drinking. So one thing that led to another is that when I stopped drinking at night, I stopped having snacks and then I lost 30 pounds. Wasn't because I was doing some great workout or some great diet or whatever. I do fasting every day, and that makes me feel really good. But I just, I just did that, and so breaking the habit's the hard part. So think about it. Think about if your destructive behavior is because of trauma, PTSD, something that happened, whatever. First of all, always seek professional help if you can, or talk to somebody about it and see. But and I know you guys will all do that because we're all smart people who listen to this podcast. But think about if what you're doing is out of habit, or is there another reason? And I think for people who been in my situation, who understand PTSD, TBI, whatever, ask yourself this: am I drinking because I want to forget my problem? Or have I gone past that, but now drinking has become a problem and I didn't realize it, right? And I think for me, maybe drinking was a little bit of a problem. Now I had to stop because I had to take care of the kids, so I always had that threshold where I stopped myself. But was that becoming a problem? And it was becoming a problem because it was starting to affect my health. And so now I didn't have the problem of PTSD, needless to say, is the reason I'm drinking. But because I was drinking because of PTSD, that became a habit. That habit continued when I no longer had issues with PTSD, right? And so what does that happen? Well, then that habit sometimes can create other issues and problems. And so I needed to break that habit. And I'm going to tell you that habit, although I talk about it being easy, with the doctor and all that, it wasn't easy to break that habit because it became a habit. And so what do you do then? And so this is what I've been talking about is, with my mental health minutes and stuff is letting go of that thing. But after you let go, has that thing now became a habit of a secondary or a third or a fourth of behavior that you're doing? And then how do you break that habit? I mean, everybody's different. I can't give you an answer to that. Only you can answer that. Only you can have the motivation and the drive to break that habit. If that's happened to you, I don't know if it has. This is just what happened to me, and that's what I had to do was to break that habit. That's why, I talk about, working out all the time, and I don't do that to brag. Working out is my therapy. Good example. I went to yoga today. I did yoga for an hour at the studio. I came home. And because I had a lot of anxiety and angst about talking about this book, because to me that's very stressful. It was stressful for me to talk about that today. And you think, well, that's kind of silly and strange. I said, no, but for me, it wasn't. In my mind, it was stressful. So I went to yoga, come home, and I was still kind of amped up. So what did I do? I went downstairs and lifted weights. And then after I lifted weights, I went outside and I got a little hill beside my house. I ran sprints up and down the hill. And then that kind of calmed me down. But when I got calmed down, I was tired, right? So when you're ramped up and you get released, I was tired. So you know what I did? I went and took a nap. I took a 30-minute nap before the show today. I'm not afraid to admit it. And that's something I had to learn to do is I never listened to my body, right? It was a habit of in the military, you go, 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 doesn't matter, matter, matter. But when you no longer have that and you have the ability to listen to your body, um, I was tired because my anxiety level had gone down. And so my body isn't ramped up, and it was tired from the exercise. It was hard exercise I did. But I became sleepy. And so I knew I needed to go take a nap. So I went and took a nap, which is something I had to learn to do. And this is something I learned this past year. So I had to break the habit, right? And so we know that good rest is important, especially if you're recovering. Um, and it's something that I had to teach myself. And somebody said, well, that's just stupid. How do you teach yourself to sleep? You're either tired or you're not. True. I had to teach myself to take a nap. That's the hard thing. And as silly as that sounds, and I think there's a lot of people out there could probably agree with me. Sometimes learning to take a good nap is it can make all the difference in the world, especially if you're not sleeping good the next day. So, um, let's see what somebody said a question here. I'm going to put my glasses on. See what this is. Have they been in the military? I don't know what that's reference to, but yeah, that's true. Yeah, the military did teach you how to sleep when you're on missions and stuff. You could sleep anywhere. That's true. And I guess I didn't think about that, but I guess I was in a form of a nap. But if you've been up for 28 hours and you lay down and sleep for 15 minutes, is that really a nap or is that really just taking a second to get some sleep? But that's a good point. We all, I served 34 years, been on a lot of field training exercises. Of course, during my deployments, you were very sleep deprived. But yes, it's yes, that's kind of funny. I forgot about that. I always have to put my glasses on to see. Yeah, that's right. That's a full night's sleep mission. That's right. 15 minutes is a full night's sleep on a mission. So that's true. So all my veterans out there, you guys totally understand that. But when you're old retired guy like I am, and I'm almost 2 years out retired, you learn to take naps differently, right? So I guess I needed to clarify the nap thing, napping differently. But it's. I hope you guys enjoyed the podcast today. I'm going to wrap it up here. But please take the time to go out and check out my book. It's pre-orders are now on amplify.com. The link's right there on the screen. Scan over that with your phone. However, if you want to save 20%, wait till July 12th. And the code will be Active Warrior. Just type in Warrior and you'll be able to save 20% on your book. And I'd be very helpful and thankful for that because I think, if I can save one life, then all of this that I do is worth it because I have to totally believe that I survived for a reason, and I believe that I'm still sitting here talking to you guys and for a reason, and that's why I do what I do. And I'm not a professional. I have no idea what I'm doing. I just sit here and talk about whatever comes to my heart, whatever comes to my mind, and that's what I talk about. And that is whatever the universe tells me I need to talk about today. And so the takeaways from today is A, code for the book. B, Reads Across America code. Click on that also. But most importantly, listen to what I talked about today about if you have recovered, the things you did during recovery, did they become a habit? And are you still doing those things even though you've recovered from your trauma? And maybe you need to look at ways to break those habits. If you're still doing them, I don't know if you did that. I was just using an example of me, um, you know, holding on to the habit after I was, my problem was issues was fixed or whatever, but I still had the habit and I had to break that habit. Um, so, hey, super excited for everybody that tuned in today. Be sure to catch Mental Health Warriors now on Reads Across America Radio. It'll be on tomorrow, Friday at 8 p.m., and then also Sundays at 10 p.m. Super easy to find. I said this earlier in the show, is you can just go on your iHeartRadio app, your Odyssey app, or your TuneIn app, type in Wreath, and then it'll pop up. Click follow. They have a lot of great programming other than mine on there. It's really great. I really like the way that the music they play on there. Of course, they play country. So if you don't like country music, well, then, whatever. But they do play a lot of good music. But also, be sure to visit veteranstrashtalk.com. You can visit our shop. We have all of our great apparel out there. We have we got the season 2 Mental Health Warrior t-shirt out there, which I'm super excited about. But I'm more excited about what it says on the back, because we are all warriors, we are worthy, and you matter. And don't you ever think elsewise. Everybody out there, listener, everybody walk on this planet today, all 3 of those sentences pertain to you. So, guys, have a great, wonderful weekend. Be safe out there. Call a buddy or friend who might have went quiet. July can be a tough month, especially coming out of Independence Day and fireworks celebration. Follow up that buddy. Make sure they're doing okay. If you are a veteran or if you are somebody in crisis, remember you can call 988 now, or you can text home to the crisis number at 741-741, and you don't have to be in the military. You don't have to have insurance, and you can talk to a licensed counselor, because life is too short. You are important to somebody, and those people want you here tomorrow, and don't you think otherwise. You're a warrior, you're worthy, and you matter. Have a great and wonderful evening. Take care.